Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about bullying. Specifically, I want to talk about how bullying is a little different when you're an adult versus when you're a kid. And I feel like kids are really mean to each other. When you're a kid, other kids tend to bully you for everything. They'll bully you for not growing up fast enough, for growing up too slowly, for being interested in things that they're not. They'll bully you for all kinds of really crazy crap that adults really don't even, get called out on ever. Things like your financial status of your family, which is totally not within your control as a child. Things like your clothes, just literally anything they will bully you over. When you're a kid, people tend to just tell you that bullying is just a fact of life and you have to get used to it. Oh, well, this is just the way the world is and you gotta get used to it and thicken up that skin. But that's not true. If I'm at work and someone's mocking me all day for something, I will report them to my boss and they will deal with it. I can leave that company. I have a choice whether or not to be there. Well, more or less. But as a child, you have absolutely no control over where you go to school or when or who's in your classes or any of that stuff. And I think it's a little disingenuous to tell kids that they're just gonna have to get used to this because the adult world really doesn't tolerate this kind of thing. Especially not in a professional setting. Online, that's a whole other matter. Just look at the comments. We tend to not think of things that are mean in adult life as bullying, and they definitely are. Adults are mean to other adults. Adults are mean to kids all the time. I don't know, something about the way that kids are cruel to other kids, because they just don't have that kind of filtering that we do as adults, and they certainly haven't developed the emotional skills to recognize, wow, this person's just being a jerk. Kids tend to trust other kids, whereas adults have kind of learned that they shouldn't. And maybe that's what people mean by growing a tougher skin when they're dealing with bullying. Maybe that's what it is, just to remember that, hey, this isn't true, this person's being mean. And the ability to recognize when someone is being mean is really important because it allows you to not have to necessarily deal with, are they right? I don't know, I just think we underestimate the effect of bullying on kids' psyches and we tell them to basically just get over it. And that's how the world works, and that's just not at least my exposure to it. So I don't know, I guess I've just been thinking about this a lot, because I was bullied for a lot of things by a lot of people when I was a child. And I don't know that I really got any more used to it, or any better at dealing with it. I basically just recognize that that person's a jerk, and might even tell them so, but usually I just remove myself from the situation because I'm an adult and I have the agency to do so. Or I have someone in authority who can deal with that for me. I don't necessarily have to deal with that. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the kind of bullying that you deal with as an adult is very different from the kind that you are expected to just grow up and deal with as a child. And to throw another layer on top of it, because why not? There's this whole attitude of, boys will be boys and, that girls are cliquey and gossipy and all this, and all of that is just not good stereotypes. No stereotype is good, of course, but it almost encourages that behavior. It normalizes it. That's not okay. It's not okay for kids to be jerks to each other. And that's really what should be taught. It should be taught when you're an adult. You will not be able to get away with doing these things. You will get in trouble for doing these things. You will have a harder time holding down a job if you act like this. It's the most classic victim shaming that we just totally socially accept, and I don't really understand why. I don't know, I'm just saying kids have it rough. And I wouldn't want to be a kid right now. When I was growing up, and here's a bit of, old person yells at cloud. When I was growing up, I didn't have the internet like we do now. There wasn't social media. And I feel like we've all kind of had to learn how to use the internet for good, I guess, or at least not for ill. But the thing is that social media is not inherently bad. It is a platform on which people do things, and people do crummy things anywhere. I don't know. I don't think we can blame the platform for being the place where people go to do bad things. They are going to do bad things no matter where. It's just maybe don't give them the microphone. So I don't know. I guess kids do have to develop their own way of coping with this, but I don't think it's really fair to put all of the pressure to deal with this on the victims. That doesn't make sense to me. And the thing is that people who bully other people generally don't do so in a vacuum. They are probably the victims of bullying themselves, or they just don't particularly like themselves and they're the victim of their own bullying. But either way, it's a cycle. And at some point, the cycle has to break, and I don't know that we're putting the right pressure in the right place here. I don't know that putting it on the victim makes sense. But the whole notion that somehow it's up to you to end the bullying is just ludicrous. The only thing that ever really worked for me was, besides removing myself from the situation, which wasn't always a possibility when I was a child, was to just kind of roll with it. Basically make it really boring for them to bully me. Just kind of own it, you know? And it hurts, you know? It cuts down to your core, but sometimes it's the only real option. And that's not really a great solution either, because it just means that you're giving them some other new target to deal with. I mean, that's not really your fault, but I don't know. I guess I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that it's crazy to tell people that the adult world is like this. It's not like this. I do not have to generally deal with bullying on a day-to-day basis like I did when I was a kid. And there are systems in place to deal with this. We have harassment laws and all kinds of things. We have human resource departments and all kinds of stuff set up to deal with exactly this problem because people are jerks and we know it. But when you're a kid, it's just, oh, you know, kids are kids. No, kids are mean sometimes and they need to be taught that that's not acceptable behavior because then maybe we won't have to deal with this when they're adults. I don't know. But that is all for this video. I'll be back again next week with another video that I hope you will find interesting. Until then, stay curious and please be kind to each other. Please.